Hey guys, and welcome to our second bonus episode of Dungeon Tales. This is the second of 3 bonus episodes that is going to focus on the backstory of our characters. Today's episode is going to focus on Nightfall and more about him and where he came from. Hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks for bearing with us as we work on going through some updates. So, without further ado, my name is Kaiser Stardust, I'm your Dungeon Master, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dungeon Tales. See you on the internet.
Some start their adventures with little to worry about. However, others are born into this world with misery and heartache. The life of a tiefling is no different in the land of Atoa, a mountainous region treacherous with snow and creatures of unknown potential. Nestled in the forest of the misty wilds, you can hear a small baby's cry coming from a cave, and a mother's soft voice trying to calm her child.
Mommy's here.
Was this always their home? That much is left up to interpretation. However, what is certain is that they were on the run. You see, sometimes, while the land itself may be carefree, humankind can be cruel, and persecution in the face of religious pursuit can sometimes overcome morals. And this couple has just given birth to a beautiful tiefling boy. However, since the father is a demon, there's a crusade who wants to banish them back to the 9 hells, regardless of whether or not they're a free demon. And this couple knows that if this crusade finds them, the boy will be killed. Alas, eventually they were found. While father went to fight them, the mother tucked the baby away and prayed to the gods that she could return and retrieve her child. However, that was 5 years ago. Luckily, the child found refuge by a magical tree.
Alright, so you found a tree. And this tree is surrounded by 5 chains. And these 5 chains all encircle this tree, and it has been speaking to you for the last 5 years, teaching you survival, teaching you how to hunt, and today is anything different. You have been tasked by the tree to go out into the wild and find a deer, and to take its life, and the entity has promised that it will show you how to prepare the meal. So, this is how we're going to go ahead and play this. It's going to be kind of like a little bit of a mini game, but not really. I want you to go ahead and give me a survival check, because right now you are in the middle of the forest, of the Misty Forest Wilds, and you're trying to track down a deer. What did you roll?
Unnatural 20.
Okay, so using your keen senses that you've developed over the last 5 years, even though you are very young of age, you're able to catch the scent in the wind of a deer. And as you start following it, you see footprints in the murky mud. And as you slink in between the shadows, you come over to a clearing. And in this clearing, you do see a deer. One of its antlers is stuck in the rungs of a tree branch, and you can see it's trying to make some noises like as it's trying to kind of get itself free. Any other sense of the word, this would be considered a mercy kill. What do you do?
I will run up to it and attack it with the stone.
Alright, give me an attack roll, please.
A 7.
You go to stab at it, and it senses you jumping out from the bushes, and while it's still trapped, it's able to kind of yank its body around in such a manner where it kicks you in the stomach with one of its hooves. Does an 8 hit you? Sorry, a 10.
No.
Okay. Yeah, you dodge out of the way. So I'm going to say that as you dodge out of the way, do you want to give me another attack roll? I'll let you go ahead and do it with advantage. 13. Okay. You hit. Go ahead and roll a d4.
4.
All right. This time, you are able to dodge out of its way as it throws a hoof at you. And you are able to take this dagger and get it up underneath of its neck and stab into it. You hear a final cry from this animal as it screams in pain, but then it goes silent and falls limp. It still is trapped within these vines, and as you start working on removing the vines, and you hear a soft voice coming out of the shrubs from behind you. And it says, that's going to cost me a lot of paperwork. It probably would have been easier to help free it. Do you turn around?
Yes, and as I turn around, I hold up the stone in front of me.
Okay. As you turn around, you see a man with golden blonde hair. His skin is gray, almost alabasterish gray. And if you didn't have such a trained eye, you would almost blend him in with the shadows, despite his blonde hair. On his forehead, he has a crown of different wooden spikes, and leaves seem to be growing out of it. And he says, "There's no need for any of that, my friend. I'm not here to hurt you. They call me Death, bringer of eternal slumber. I'm just here to help this animal pass on to the next world. And I was going to do so anyways, but it looks like you helped it meet its demise a little bit earlier than it was supposed to be scheduled. Alas, I don't care one way or another. However, I do want to maybe give you some advice. You seem like one of the types who is more so inclined to just take things in this world. Would you say that's true? Just to help you survive, shall we say?
Why shouldn't I? I've been abandoned. I have no one to take care of me except for someone who I can't physically be with. So why should I not take what I need, even if it causes pain?
You bring up some fair points. However, there are better ways. Ways that cause less suffering. You see, my friend, everything in this world has balance. And people like me, the agents and emissaries who are in charge of keeping control of that balance, have to make sure that that balance stays in order. You see, and he steps forward, kind of sidestepping you because you're still holding the dagger out, I'm assuming. And he says, you see, as he pushes past some of the leaves, that opens up another clearing that you weren't actually seeing before. This creature belonged to a family. Now that he's pushed these shrubs away, you can see that there is a small doe that probably wouldn't be more than a year old. And you can see that it's like, I don't know what the proper terminology would be, neighing? I'm going to go with neighing. This is probably incorrect. You can see that it's like neighing and trying to kind of figure out where its family is. And he says, you see, this creature here was this other one's child. And unfortunately now there's what's known as an imbalance. And he walks over to it and he lifts up his finger, and you see in his finger appears a turquoise blue rose. You see him kind of kneel down and casually feed this rose to this deer while he's speaking. And he continues and he says, unfortunately, with this imbalance in this world, now with this doe without its family, it's not going to make it in this world, unfortunately. So now there's what's known as an irregularly, shall we say, because now this creature can't live without this other one. And so now things are out of balance. And that's why I have to fix it. And as soon as this doe finishes eating this rose, you see it kind of just like what almost looks like it's yawning, but then it just kind of sleepily just kind of sits down in the field, and you see it just kind of stop moving. And he picks it up and slings it over his shoulder, and he says, you see, unfortunately, being an agent of death as myself, I have to fix these sorts of issues that happen. I can show you easier ways that don't cause so much suffering, or should I like to call it domino effect. I can show you a better way if you'll allow me.
Why should I care about other people's suffering when the only thing that I've known is suffering itself? If people suffer, why should I care? No one's cared about me.
You see, I can completely understand what you are going through. There's injustices and horrors in this world all over. And while I'm not going to push you in one direction or the other, because that's not my place, I can tell you that, actually, let me just show you. And with that, he sets down the animal that he's carrying, and you see him just kind of wave his fingers. And as he waves his fingers, it's almost like you see just kind of like a wave in the wind. And then this wave kind of turns into just a bright light, almost like he's just painted this bright light in front of you. And then this bright light, you see images, hundreds of different types of images, and you see wars, you see countless deaths, battles of unknown proportions. And while you're watching this, he says, you see, war and suffering was never the intentions. It was never the end goal. Unfortunately, corrupt and possibly even evil people have started causing these wars in pursuit of power, fame, riches, you name it. But the way I see it, and you see him flick his wrist again, and now you see a different scene. This scene is more so peaceful. You see people and different races coming together to rebuild destruction. You see them building up cities, and you see them going out and trying to start farms, and you see them giving back to nature. You see druids working with animals and protecting them from hunters, and many more things. And he says, with every evil there is in the world, there's also good. However, the way I see it, when evil outweighs good, then yes, you are correct. Truly then, there is no more good in the world, and all that will be left is suffering and heartache. All I'm merely suggesting is for you to be the change in the world. That's all.
How can it be a change when I don't know what to be?
I can show you a better way. As I said, I can teach you to fend for yourself. I can teach you to, through guidance, I can show you how to give back to the world and leave it better than the way you found it. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward a little bit here because I know that you're indecisive in this sort of situation. And I'm not really wanting you to have an answer at this exact moment. But through this interaction, I'm going to say that it got your wheels turning. It wasn't necessarily what you would say, like you completely agree with everything he says, but he kept true to his promise. He taught you how to better fend for yourself. He taught you how to grow and cultivate different gardens and things of that nature. And overall, throughout the next 5 years, he taught you more about the balance of life and how to basically give back to the world. For everything that you took, he taught you how to give back. We're going to fast forward a little bit. It's now been 10 years. You're around the age of 10 and a half. And at this point, Death has kind of gone on and done his own thing. We're going to say that you're in a clearing. I think that it's been about 5 years. And since then, since your first meeting with Death. And you're now pretty much self-sufficient for the most part. You know how to cook, you know how to foliage for yourself. You know how to find different like mushrooms and things that are edible. And you are in a clearing right now. And I think you're kind of questioning some of these things. You're kind of questioning the meaning of it all. You're questioning what exactly it is that you should be doing. And you're also reminded of something as well. When you first met the tree, they agreed to help you. However, on that circumstance, they agreed that when you came of the age of 24, you would have to repay them back for teaching you how to hunt for yourself and fend for yourself and cook. And at the age of 24, you would have 1 year from your 24th birthday to be their weapon and extract revenge on the world. The details of this are relatively fuzzy because it was quite some time ago. But you do remember them saying, through you, we are going to bring hell to elsewhere and make them pay for what they've done. And this thought weighs heavy on your mind. Today, you've decided to go back to the tree and maybe just have a conversation on why you've been gone for the last 5 years. But you're excited to maybe tell them about this man known as Death that showed you a better way.
Tree, are you here?
Yes, I am here. It's been some time since I've seen you.
So, the day that you sent me to kill that deer that was stuck, I met a strange man, and he started talking to me, and I didn't like what he said at first. But the more he talked and the more we met and whatnot, it slightly made sense. But I don't know what to think, because I have the teachings you taught me, and now I have the teachings he taught me, and I'm really confused on what to do. So, I know you want me to be your weapon to exact revenge, but is it possible that there's another non-violent, in a sense, solution where we're not upsetting a balance to get revenge?
What is this foolishness that you speak? Of course not. Don't you understand? They've wronged us. This world has taken everything from us. You wouldn't even be alive without the help of me. Don't you see they don't care about you? I find it deeply saddening that you've spent the last 5 years away from my help and my nurturing arm to be able to just go do your own thing. And what is these teachings that you speak of?
Teachings of balance, that we can't have life without death, nor death for nonsense. There needs to be a balance or nothing will be proper. And I understand the world has wronged us horribly. I know this. I was abandoned. I understand the pain of being wronged, but I don't want to cause this wrong on other people if they don't deserve it.
You're met with silence for quite some time. And then you hear a response, more stern than the last time.
It sounds like whoever this is has gotten inside your head. Got it all twisted around. Got it all mashed up. You speak balance and things of that nature, but death is a necessary process. It is how the people of this world who are evil and wrong are dealt with. And if you can't understand that, then perhaps you just shouldn't be listening to other people's voices.
And it is around this time that... Give me a perception check. 14. Okay. As soon as he says this, you actually see Death has been watching you most of this time with this interaction. And you can see that he is watching you from some of the bushes. Not too close by, but also not far away either. And as soon as this voice says this, you see him look at you with a surprised look as you see this ball of light, this red, bright light, just encases him. And as he goes to say something, it almost looks like Death is about to say something. He just disappears. But you see that light, that beam of red light, circle around. And you see a rock, just a plain rock next to you, levitate into the air. And you see this red energy just smash into it. And you see this archaic symbol that you've never seen before form onto this rock. And it falls carelessly to the ground.
The only voice you should be listening to is me. Now, that shall be moving forward the way it shall be. Do you understand?
What do you do?
Up the rock and I run.
Okay. And as you run, you still hear him calling. He says,
"It'll only be a matter of time
before you come back crawling to me. And don't expect me to be as forgiving. And you hear this voice booming through the forest. But you continue running. We're going to fast forward a little bit. And you run past your...
Hey y'all, Kel here, with a quick ad break to tell you about Anchor. What is Anchor, you may ask? Well, it's only the easiest way to make and upload your own podcast. Let me explain why. Well, for starters, it is free. That's right, Free, free. And with all of us sheltered in and hunkered down, now is the best time to make a podcast. They also have built-in creation tools that let you record and edit the audio straight from your computer or even your phone. You don't even need to download anything. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast to places like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more places where podcasts are listened to, letting you focus on your creating. But the best part of this whole thing is that you can make money from your podcast with sponsorships through Anchor that require no minimum listenership. It is huge for everyone just starting out. It is everything you need to make a successful podcast in one central location. Now, if you're ready to take your big idea and share it with the world, then go over to anchor.fm, download the app, or simply click the link in the description to get started today. Well, that's all for me. Happy sailing.
Hey, Kaisa here. Today's episode is made possible by Audible. Now, as most of you know, Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 180,000 books to choose from. Now, I know when I'm on a long drive or stuck in my daily commute, or even just wanting to relax with something to keep my mind off the grind, Audible comes through. And between you and me, I enjoy them because my attention span does not let me sit down to read traditionally, since I have so many things I'm doing during the day. So, if you're wanting to start your free 30-day trial, head on over to audibletrial.com/Dungeon Tales, or follow the link in our description and enjoy a free audiobook on us. That's all for me. Now back to the adventure. Home. You look briefly at your cave that you once called home, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. So you continue running. You run for quite some while. You don't even know how much time has passed. But you come to a small rundown cottage. The windows are cracked. The doors are broken in. And it doesn't look like this place has seen any activity for several years. What do you do?
I take a rest.
You go inside. It's empty. But there's a bed in there. And everything that you would need to provide yourself for shelter. And you take a rest. And when the voice doesn't follow you, and you don't hear any more of the stern voices, you set the stone next to you, and you just try and process what's happened. During this time, you do several different things. You find out that there is a city nearby, a city by the name of Dustdale, and that your shack is quite close to there. Quite in fact, about a mile or so away. During this time, you run errands. Occasionally, you steal what's needed. And you take odd jobs and such just to get by. These were some of the hardest years for you, because for once, you don't have a voice of guidance during this time. And a lot of the other locals around you just give you odd looks, and no one really pays you mind. That is until one day, you're near the docks, trying to find a simple meal, perhaps maybe a merchant for hire. You met a man named Darren, and Darren is an interesting man of sorts. A captain, or at least that's what he calls himself, and a merchant. He ran into you at the docks and struck up some conversation. And one of the things you remember him saying is, "Listen, kid, I have the next big job. I don't know about you, but you look pretty worse for wears. What do you say you help me out? I could use a little bit of extra hand on ship. What say ye?"
What do I have to do?
"Oh, nothing crazy. I'm just taking my ship over out to the coast. There's a cave there, you see. And from my understanding, there's enough treasure in it to supply us for quite some time. I'll split it with you 50-50. I just need some help. Someone who's small and nimble, such as yourself, to disarm a couple of traps that are laid around. Should be pretty easy, simple pickings for someone like yourself.
I can try my best.
And with that, you two set off on this ship. You guys, of course, make your way to the cave, relatively simply. And during that time, Darren tells you about many adventures he's been on and talks about the many fearless tales of woe and adventure. And you make your way to this cave. Now, here's how this is going to work. I am going to roll a dice, and we are going to see how many traps there are actually in this cave. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Interestingly enough, despite what they were saying, when you get to this cave, he sends you ahead, and he follows behind a couple hundred feet. And as you're crawling through this cavern, you notice that realistically, there's only one major thing that you see. And this is what looks to be a very complex trap. Just one. And it's blocking the main entrance to this area. And this trap basically seals the door shut. The door itself looks to be just where you have to basically stick your hand into a crevice and pull a lever. But you can also see that there are at least 4 different ports on each side of this. One false move and what looks to be spikes or maybe a flamethrower will tear you limb from limb. Go ahead and give me a sleight of hand check. With advantage, please.
10.
Okay, here's what happens. So you go and you reach your hand into this. You hear Darren giving you the affirmative, "That's it, boy. Just nice and easy." And as you go in and grab hold of this lever, you pull it back, and as you pull it back, you hear a click. But something sounds off about this click. You see the door start to move, but it's almost like something is malfunctioning with the switch. And as the door opens, you hear the whirling of these canisters. You hear a clicking of what seems to be something drawing back in this crevice that you know spikes come out of. I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
20 total.
Okay. You effortlessly do a backflip as the door opens, but simultaneously 5 huge jets of fire shoot in a cross formation. In addition to that, spikes shoot forward out of the crevices, narrowly grazing you. But you're able to open this door, and then eventually the traps do disable. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Nice, nimble movement. Must be just due to these old runes and things. These traps always seem to misfire. I tell you, I almost lost a hand myself once with one of these old, outdated traps. And with that, you and Darren make your way into this cave. Other than that, it's relatively uneventful. You do find the treasure chest, and you never do open it. Darren says, "It's best to do that once we get back to town. Way I see it." And you guys lug it back over to your ship and start making it way back to town. I'm going to say that you are about to port. I think something is in your mind. You want to know, is this really worth a half a fortune? Is it really worth going to all this effort just to go get this chest? Or is it just a bunch of bogus? You find yourself late at night as you guys are about to port in the bottom of the cargo ship. Your eyes are on the treasure chest, and you have a small knife out. The same knife that you used long a time ago on that deer. I need for you to go ahead, as you try to open the lock with your knife, I need you to give me a sleight of hand check with disadvantage, please.
4.
Okay. Just like many locks before, you're able to easily pick this lock. You click it and the lock pries off effortlessly. However, in your eager attempt to open it, you fail to see the small tripwire that was holding the door, holding the top of the chest shut. And as you open it, you do indeed find treasure. Quite a lot of it, in actuality. However, you also see another rune, much like the one that you have seen with your current friend. And this one is in an archaic blue and gold, a symbol that you don't quite recognize. However, as soon as you open this chest, that tripwire snaps. And as soon as it snaps, you see this archaic bubble that has been encasing this chest, this big purple archaic bubble. It just does a popping sound. And then you see this rune start to whirl to life. And as you take cover and step back, to your horror, you see a creature forming out of thin air. This creature grows and grows and grows until you start seeing it pressing against the ceiling of the ship. And as you start running backwards, you see that as it breaks its head through, this is a creature unlike any you have seen before. As this creature grows and the light starts turning more into a actual form, this creature has long scales along its back, a long tail, and its mouth is thousands upon hundreds of teeth. You have heard tales of this creature before. Much less, you've never seen one before, but you know that this is known as a Tarrasque. And you know you need to get out of here. And just to give you a little bit more description, currently around you, the ship is breaking apart. You hear screaming from some of the crew hands above it as this creature is basically breaking the ship apart. What are you doing?
Grab a big handful of the coins, put it in a bag, and I run upstairs to go get Darren.
As you run upstairs, you see that this Tarrasque has its head and shoulders through the deck, and it is currently attacking several of the crew members. It has also managed to knock off several lanterns. You see that the deck is currently on fire, and you see that this ship is currently docked, but it is currently starting to sink. And this creature is thrashing around. And as you see the cabin's quarters of where Darren is, you see Darren is actually getting out of the captain's quarters, and he's like, "What in the hell is going on?" It's like, and then he sees this creature, and he's like, "Is that a Tarrasque on my ship?" And you see him shout to several of the crew hands, and he says, "Well, guys, we need to get out of here." And as he's trying to get a couple of the other crew hands together, you see part of the mast. At this point, the creature has got its tail free, and it takes its tail and it whips it across the mast of the ship. And you see it snap like a twig. This comes crashing down over the crew, over the captain's quarters deck. Darren tries to dive out of the way, but you see this crash down on his torso, crushing and pinning his leg to the ship. What do you do?
I tried to pull him free.
As you try to pull him free, you start to see that fire is starting to spread across this ship. And as you're getting him free, I need you to give me a strength check. Or an athletics check, excuse me.
18.
You're able to lift this board, this mast of this ship, relatively simply, but with a good amount of force. But your time in the forest has taught you how to be strong. You're able to lift this up with him being able to get enough of his foot out, but you can tell that his leg is broken. But you're able to push him out from underneath of the mast before setting it back down. At this point, you see some of the other crew hands come over to his aid, and you see him being shouldered by them as they help him get to his feet. Before he runs off, the last thing he says to you, and he looks at you, he says, "I told you to wait to open that chest, boy. There was more than meets the eye to it, and I needed to wait and have an arcane Master, take a look at it. This is all your fault. And with that, they cart him off. What are you doing? At this point, you see that this Tarrasque is starting to tear through the ship. The ship itself is sinking, and this Tarrasque is starting to make their way into the city.
Jumping off. Thinking of jumping into the water.
Okay, sure. So are you going into the water?
I was thinking about jumping off and then swimming a bit of ways out to avoid what was going on in town.
Okay. So as you watch this Tarrasque burn through the city and smoke rising up from the town, you jump into the water and start swimming. You swim quite far away to the opposite side of the pier, and you make a wide berth around this pier and make your way into a different section of the Misty Forest Wilds. And as you're walking through, you think about all of this situation and realize that you have nothing left to go back to. And during your travels from this point, you find nestled in a small cave that you seek for shelter at some point, a small little pewter snuff box with mouse whiskers on the outside engraved in an ornate detail. And as you open it up, you find an 8-sided dice. And to this day, you consider that dice lucky, if there is even reason to believe in such things at this point. As time progresses, 4 more years pass as you make your way through the Misty Forest Wilds trying to find your next home. Somewhere along the line, all of the trauma over the years catches up to you. From what the entity in the tree has been saying to what death has been saying. Should you go for balance? Should you watch the world just burn? Do you even want to be the better change? Or do you just want to make this all go away? And somewhere along those thought processes, each side of them just tearing at your mind, you end up losing your sanity along the way. Some days you want to watch the world burn, other days you want to save it, and some days all you can really do is just take your fist and smash them into the trees around you. Finally, though, you make your way to a town. You've heard talk about this town before when you were in the city. It's known as the City of Tolerance. One reason why you've heard of this town and why it stuck out to you is because their slogan is that we welcome all who live here in the city. And with that, you realize that as you make your way to this city, it's your 24th birthday. And you find a tavern and meet an innkeeper by the name of Imakar, who says, "Well, you look like shit. Hopefully, your birthday can be a little bit better with the help of this." And to your delight, she hands you a loaf of bread and a free mug of ale. "On the house," as she says. And she even goes to the work of rummaging around the supply bins and finding a couple of candles to put on top of this loaf of bread. And she's like, "Ooh, actually," and she goes into the back and finds a little bit of sugar and sprinkles it on top to make it more of a sweet bread. "Hopefully this should help sweeten your day a little bit. Tell you what, why don't you get a room and get freshened up? Since I'm the owner of this tavern, we try and look after our own." Is there anything you want to do in this specific scene?
I'm going to go upstairs to the room that was offered to me with the bread. I'm going to set the bread on the side table, sit on the bed, and just hug the stone. And I'm going to cry.
As you hug the stone, you sense its warmth. You sense it, and as you kind of hug the stone, you can see that it glows and illuminates the room. And you find this comforting in some ways. Is there anything else you'd like to do in this scene?
I'm just going to cry myself to sleep.
The following day, you're tasked by the innkeeper to go out and fetch some berries from the outskirts of the woods nearby the town. She's preparing some foods and different items that require them, especially for her ales. And while you're on the outskirts of town, you find these berries and you start picking them. But then you see a glowing light. And this glowing light is alluring to you. It's almost like it's calling your name. What do you do?
I follow.
As you follow this light, it goes to a tree trunk. And then it seems like this kind of glowing light pulses for a few moments and then goes inside. And as it goes inside, you see what looks to be like a small door form on this tree. What do you do?
I knock and then enter.
As you knock on this door, it opens ajar. And as you push it open and go to step inside, you don't really step, but more so just fall. And as you fall downwards, you black out. And that's really all you remember. You still don't know how you got into the Feywild, but you imagine it probably had something to do with that. You still don't have any idea on how exactly to get back from here. But for the last, well, at least in your mind, quite a while, you've been living here, amongst this world that's known as the Feywild. And this is where our adventure begins.
Hey, Kaiza here, to say thanks for listening to our latest episode. Without listeners and supporters like you, we would not be able to do what we do. If you want to support us, or just buy the DM a coffee to help with the workload, you can donate at anchor.fm/Kaiza-Stardust/support. Next up, some shout outs to people who have helped us out on the podcast. Starting off with our contest winner for renaming our podcast, Luna Ruffles on Telegram. Thanks, Luna. Next up, the artist who made the cover art for our podcast, Ray, who can be found at Shawnee Spring on Twitter. That's at SHAWNEE Spring on Twitter. Big shout out to Anchor.fm for hosting our podcast, along with TabletopAudio.com, DarianCurtisMusic.com, and Zapsplat.com for letting us use their awesome music and sound effects. More episodes coming soon. Be sure to follow us at Dungeon Tales on Twitter, or hit up the DM at Kaiza Stardust to keep up with the show and tweet at us. Till next time, this is Kaiza Stardust, signing off.